Excited to be here. Just really fired up about the season getting started. It seems like it's been a whirlwind since getting the job here and season ending last year. And just a lot of positive things have happened, and a lot of work has gone in to get to this point for the season to begin. And thankful and excited that the season gets to kick off here at home against a really quality opponent in the Sun Belt and MAC Challenge with Ohio. And it'll be a great test for us, and really excited to see how our team responds when the lights come on, and how we come together and put all the things that we've been working on together, on the big stage here in front of what should be a great crowd.
And obviously, for this Sun Belt MAC Challenge, they try to match up teams they think are going to be similar level. Ohio has, I guess you could call it a core group coming back. Like, just what have you seen from them, and what kind of challenge do you expect with what they were able to do last year, bring those guys back?
Yeah, they're going to be a really good team, and it's interesting how these matchups occur. They'll kind of send out some emails and kind of poll the coaches within our league to say, hey, where do you think your team will be? Where do you think the rest of the teams in the league are going to be? And then I guess they kind of match them up based on that. And my response to that was, we have 12 new players. I've never been in the Sun Belt. I have no idea how good our team is going to be. And they said, okay, great, we're going to put you against the best team in the MAC. So that was their response to that. And I said, okay, that'll work. But no, we're excited because they're a really good team. Jeff does an unbelievable job. I'd coached against Jeff's team during may have been his first year as a head coach when he had an NBA player, and we had a really good game at their place in Ohio. And so, they have a lot of continuity. They have a lot of guys back. They have a veteran group. They have a really talented team. They've got big guys that can shoot it. They've got versatile players who can post. They've got dynamic guards. They're a good defensive team. They share the ball. They are going to shoot it from 5 spots. And so they're going to be a great challenge for us. And I think the biggest challenge is going to be the experience that they have, and most specifically, the experience they have together. We have a group that has a lot of experience, but they don't have any experience together, on that stage, for a game that counts. And so it'll be a great challenge for us to see how we match up against them. But they're going to do a lot of things that are going to be difficult for us because they are a unique team. They have great balance, scoring inside, scoring outside, big guys that can shoot it, and they run a dynamic offense that tries to get you chasing. And so it's going to be a really good challenge for our group.
You mentioned your team and so many new guys. How have they come together? Do you feel like they've come together? It'll be a work in progress, I'm sure, throughout the season. But do you like the chemistry that they're showing in practice right now?
I do. Yeah, I think we just it starts with having high character guys, and we really do have that. These guys. Come in every single day. You never have to address attitudes, effort, competitiveness. Those things are positive and consistent every single day. And they want to be here for all the right reasons. They want to win. They want to have great experience here together. And I do believe that the chemistry has been very evident, and they've come together in a hurry. You hear sentiments from a lot of our guys that have played at different schools or maybe a couple different schools, and they say this is the closest locker room that they've ever been a part of, and that means something to us because that's by design with our staff as we begin to put a roster and build a team. We try to be very mindful of how all these pieces fit together, and so when you get that type of feedback from those guys in the locker room, it certainly makes you feel like you're doing it right.
What did you learn about your team in the 2 closed-door scrimmages you had? I'm guessing you learned quite a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, those are so valuable. I hate it for sports like football that don't get to have those, right? Because you just don't know how your team is going to respond and match up. And we learned a lot. It's exactly what I anticipated us to learn. Especially for us from an offensive standpoint, the way that we're going to play the game that allows this team to play efficiently is we run a lot of sets, and we run them really fast, and typically we run them very well. The problem with that is defensively you learn to guard your own sets in practice every single day, and so you build up some poor habits that won't translate, and you need to get exposed. And so when you play these scrimmages, you're not going in completely blind, but you're going to have to rely on the habits that you've built. And if you haven't built very good communication habits, being in position, different things like that on the defensive side of the ball, then you end up getting exposed, and that's the information that you need. And so we learned a lot about our team. We played a lot of guys. From the first one to the second one, we probably cut that rotation down a little bit and moved a couple pieces around and a couple guys, and that proved to be beneficial for us. But I learned a lot about our team and was really proud of the way that they responded from the first scrimmage to the second one.
We talked to Sean about this, but the Sun Belt obviously announced the change in format for the conference tournament coming up in March. Your thoughts on that, where, again, if you get a 1 or 2 seed, you only have to play 2 games. Are you in favor of the change?
You know, I am. I obviously wasn't a part of the tournament format the way it was before. However, this tournament format is similar to what I'm used to in the OVC. The difference being we didn't take everybody in the OVC to the conference tournament. We only took 8 teams rather. So this does make for a very long week. However, at the end of the day, it's in everyone's best interest, not just the Sun Belt, but every single school, that you give your best teams the best opportunity to represent your league in March Madness. That is just the facts of it. And you should reward regular season success, because tournaments are great, don't get me wrong, and we all get judged on our success in a tournament, but at the end of the day, there's 2 months, 2.5 months leading up to that tournament, and there has to be a reward and an incentive for doing well over the course of that amount of time. And so I'm in favor of the tournament. I think there were some issues. Again, I didn't experience them, but I had just feedback from other coaches, Coach O and my colleagues in the league, that maybe you had a bye, but the team that you had played had already gotten a game in, plus they got a day's rest, and so they had a lot of advantages coming into playing against you. And so I wouldn't have been in favor of that. And people will say, well, what if you're one of those bottom teams, you're going to win 6 or 7 games? Well, I would tell you to win your 18 that you get before that, so you're not in that position. It's just fair. That's how it works. So I'm in favor of it.
I know you asked your guys about how they felt about the preseason polls when it first came out. Did you gauge them in the locker room? Any chatter about the tournament bracket at all?
Not at all. I don't even know if they're aware of it, to be honest with you. We haven't had a conversation about that, to be honest.
I've kind of seen, most of the criticism against the format as it stands right now has really been mostly from fans who kind of like that, chaotic feeling of March. But, as a coach, is emphasizing sort of the funness of the tournament sometimes kind of comes at that disadvantage of it puts teams in an uncomfortable situation where they could be upset when they might be the better team?
It's going to happen. I mean, it's March Madness, and that's why it's the greatest month in all of sports, and it begins with conference tournaments very much like the Sun Belt. There are going to be upsets. There's going to be a team that goes on a run. There's going to be a team that at some point wins 6 games in 6 days or whatever that may be. And so that's what's great about our sport, and that's going to continue to happen. I don't care what tournament format you come up with. There's so many different things that lead into that, right? You're going to have teams that have injuries, and maybe they didn't play as well in their throughout the conference season, and then they get guys healthy, and then all of a sudden they do look like the best team, even though they're a 6 seed, 7 seed, whatever that may be. And so that chaos is still going to happen. There's no doubt about it. That's why it's the greatest sporting event, in all of sports is college basketball and March Madness. So fans are still going to get that without a doubt.
I was just kind of curious, with your first game being in the Sun Belt MAC Challenge, how do you kind of look at opportunities like that throughout the season to play somebody from a different conference and sort of have those partnerships?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. It's exciting for us to say, number one, we got to open the season at home. I was thankful for that, to get to coach in front of our fans and in this building and this environment. But it's nice to see, who we do get matched up with, right? And so we do have 12 new players, and we got picked, second, and so we're playing the team that got picked, I believe, first or second in the MAC. And so that's a great honor, right? And so with that, it's a great challenge, and it just kind of grabs the attention of your team that kind of what we've been hitting home with them since the moment we started recruiting them is that they're coming here to compete at the top of this league, and we're going to get everybody's best shot. And so right off the bat, we're going to get the best team that the MAC has to offer here on our home court. And so with that, it kind of grabs the attention of our guys and increases their urgency as we prepare for the season. So I'm excited about that.
When you have a roster composed of guys that have never played before and just weren't even with this program, what is that process like in the preseason when you're trying to figure out what rotations work, who plays well with who? Is that something you're kind of attacking when you're recruiting guys, or is it when they are finally here, is it just trial and error? Just, I don't know if you could talk about that process a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that we have, in the recruiting process that we necessarily have preconceived notions of starting five or rotations or anything like that. You want to make sure that you're checking a lot of boxes. You want to have enough guards. You want to have enough size. You want to have enough shooting. You want to have quality bigs. All of those things, and you want to hit those certain numbers. And then in the summertime, we play a lot, and I would say that in the summer there's a lot less structure as to what we're doing, because our structure is going to be, kind of compiled and formed from the information that we get from allowing these guys to play. And, so we don't necessarily put these guys in their respective boxes until the fall, semester rolls around, and we've had 6, 7, 8 weeks of summer information and practice with them. But then, you start to very quickly figure out what guys are good at, and you kind of start structuring what you do offensively and defensively to, magnify and, exemplify what they do well and try to minimize what they don't do well. And we mess around with lineups all the time. We do it in practice. Yesterday we had, a lineup that we only played for a few minutes in one of our scrimmages. We had it for half a practice, right? And then we flipped over and we were working on something else, and we went back to a totally different unit. So it changes, right? And I do think the good thing about this group is we've got a lot of versatility, and we can play a couple of different ways depending on who's out there on the court. We can play fast. We can have more shooting. We can have more size. We can have, a rim run and lob threat guy, or we can have an anchor and a hub for our offense in the high post and low post with Elijah. And so we've got a few different ways that we can do things, and then it's about figuring out who pairs well together, who complements each other, just, again, so that they can all play to their strengths.
With you getting set to coach your first game here at JMU in a few days, have you visualized it all, just taking the floor for the first time, just kind of the buzz that's going to be in this arena, especially given the year the program has and the expectations coming into this year? Is that something you've kind of thought about, or what's kind of your emotions going into your first game?
I've been giving it a little bit more thought as of late. We just had a meeting about our tickets. I had no idea where my tickets would be or where my family would be seated, and so I immediately went out to the arena and said, okay, that'll be good. I hear my wife yelling at me from that seat or whatever. And so it became a little more real. Now my staff's saying, hey, what are we wearing on Monday night? And I'm like, I don't know. We'll figure all that out. So, yes, I'm starting to think about that a little bit more. It dawned on me during our scrimmage as I'm sitting there with my coaches on the bench, and, I'm like, where do I look at for the score, right? You guys don't think of things like that, but as coaches, like, that's an important thing when you're sitting there on the bench and every arena, you're like, I don't even know what the score is here, right? So, yeah, you're starting to think about all those different things, and, they'll all come together. My staff does an unbelievable job. I tell you, like the very first scrimmage that we had, it was like every other game I've had. They had everything lined up perfectly, the huddles, the timeouts. It was all, kind of done for me, so which I'm very thankful for, because if it were left up to me to organize all that stuff, I wouldn't be able to do it. I promise you that.
Looking back at some of your last few Moorhead teams, I know they're bottom half of the NCAA as far as like bench minutes. I think you've got like at least 10 guys on this roster who have played a lot of minutes in their career. Like, just how deep do you expect to go maybe here, especially in the first few games of the season? How much are you still kind of experimenting with the rotation and exactly what it's going to be?
Yeah, I think I do think we do have the capacity and the potential to play, certainly more than 6.5 guys is what I always say that we used to do there. Assuming we're healthy, right? If we're healthy, I think it's going to be consistent that you're probably going to see 10 guys, play within a 40-minute game. And some of that, again, is going to be game to game. We've got some guys that they're going to be really impactful against certain opponents, and then they're not going to be nearly as impactful against other opponents. And some of that will prove itself right or wrong as we get going. But we would like to, get our rotation to about 10 guys, and that's hard. That's a hard thing to do, especially when you've got, some really dynamic players that have a high usage rate. It's hard to say, man, they're really playing well for 33 minutes. Let's figure out how to cut them down to 28 just so we can play another guy. And so how does all that feed in with one another is still going to be kind of figured out, but it is a nice luxury to have to say, hey, we've got 10 guys that are good enough to play. Let's figure out if that's going to work for this game, or if that needs to be 9, if it needs to be 8. That's certainly a lot more fun than saying we got 6.5. Let's see if we can fake it and get through the rest of this game and piece it together. But I do think our tempo. One thing that we've really emphasized with this group is we get that ball in and we run on makes, and we go quickly, and we run offense for 94 feet. We've got a chance to extend our defense. This is a team that can do some full court press, and that's not necessarily been a part of my identity as a coach over the past years, but it's been a lot because of our depth, right, or lack thereof. And so if you say, hey, we got 10 guys, what are some things that we can do to increase what's made us a good team over the past few years that really complements those numbers? And so extending your defense, playing a little bit faster on the offensive end are two things that certainly allow us to really, magnify the fact that we've got a few extra guys who deserve to play.